Hey Chad, nice to see you today.
And you buy the tree? You buy a
I
tree?
am, I am. Yeah, I'm at my friend's property down here in Central Florida, and behind me is a nice old oak tree, really beautiful. Got lots of Spanish moss hanging on it, and yeah, it's a very peaceful tree.
That's fantastic. What a location for this conversation as well. So fitting. I feel if you can start off with a kind of an explanation for somebody that if they didn't know anything about anything kind of ish, you know what I mean? You're bringing them into it, what you are and what you're doing in terms of the technology and things, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. All right, so I have been working for several years with a couple different technologies that are based in using crystals and metals with various purposes, but the primary purpose being that of reconnecting with nature and creating a pathway for the divine to come into our world, building the kingdom of heaven here on earth. So, like I said, there's several different technologies that I've been working with, and there's many out there in the world. But the ones that I've learned about and learned how to make are Orgone technology and Tensor technology. So, Orgone technology is typically made in resin. You may have seen like resin pyramids with crystals in them, and those are very common. Those are growing everywhere on the world. People are making them everywhere as more and more people are becoming aware about this technology. And I work with some different materials. I like to work with cement and clays and beeswax and try to get a little bit closer to the natural elements when I'm working.
Orgone generators are devices that come in all sorts of shapes. I make them in pyramids. The pyramid design is favored among many people, dating back to things they've read about the Giza pyramid and how ancient it is and how powerful it still is. Domes are quite powerful. In fact, you can make them in any shape as long as you put certain basic materials into them. Crystals, metals, and resin. The resin, since it's organic, it's from the earth, it's carbon-based, it sucks in the negative energy which is all around us. As soon as it hits the metal being inorganic reflects that energy. So now we have an attraction, expansion, repulsion at very high frequencies. Now this is chaotic energy. But when you put crystals inside this matrix, the crystals have the ability to transmute, transform this chaotic energy, smooth it, balance it out, and out comes a healing, life-enhancing energy from all orgonite, all Orgone generators. All pets, all plants, everything that's alive in your environment wants more of this powerful, positive energy, life-enhancing energy, because we have so much negative energy. So the only way we can fight this battle is to surround ourselves with some Orgone generators, cards, different energy devices to bring us back into balance. Once we are in balance, everything works better. You sleep better, you digest better, you eat better, you're happier, you're less frustrated, less depressed. Once you come into balance, the whole body works better.
And then Tensor technology is made of copper, and those would be rings or harmonizers. And those have a myriad of benefits. A lot of people use tensor rings as healing devices, and ways to structure your water, ways to clear the atmosphere, many things. The applications are quite numerous.
And so there's something telling me that obviously this links to the tree somehow as well. Obviously, you're sitting behind one. We know the power of trees and nature, healing, and so do they imitate the tree in some sense, or in us? Is it just a micro macro type of How would you explain it in relation to the tree?
Well, with my work, I feel very called to emulate the trees, and that goes back to my childhood and my home in Pennsylvania, where I grew up with my family, along the banks of the Susquehanna River. When I was younger, there was a maple tree out behind the barns, a little walks away from the house, and I would go and sit by this maple tree. And I got to know this tree pretty well. And one day, the tree started reaching out to me. I was there sitting in the tree in meditation, and the tree started to share with me a perspective on the story of like how humans came into being, what consciousness is, and a history of the world that came through in like visual images and sensations, colors, feelings, not really words, but I've heard other people talk about this similar type of discussion with trees before on your channel, and it's just amazing. Like, there's not many people talking about it on the internet yet, but I feel like it's going to get very popular.
Oh, I know you're angry. I know you're upset. Oh, I feel it too. Sometimes I get so angry I want to torpedo the world. Oh, but just breathe. Just breathe. Oh. Just keep those tentacles where they are. This is Sam.
You name your tree?
Yeah, of course. This is Veronica, my niece. Say hello to Sam.
Hello, Sam.
She's nice. Oh, you're so beautiful. Isn't it a beautiful day? He's a good tree. That's Bernie. He's an oak. Sweet and grounded. That's Hillary. Strong, but a little untrustworthy. That's Donald. He's an asshole.
So as I learned from this tree and got into creating things later down the line in life, I wanted to bring that into my art, bring that into my technology. And one of the first trees I made was for some friends in Rhode Island with a healing center there. And I was building them a custom Orgone generator. And I really felt called to build a copper wire tree, a little bonsai tree that would help act as an antenna and, just enhance the receptivity and the transmission of the device.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what real life experiments have you had in terms of people and using this and healing and give me some experiences, some real life of the people that you have helped through this technology, and the people that have brought this technology and then helped themselves through this technology.
Yeah, so back in Pennsylvania, I have a friend who is very electromagnetic sensitive, and that's one of the main reasons I got into this kind of work as well. Is when I was younger, I realized I had issues with electromagnetic sensitivity to EMFs. But my friend back in Pennsylvania, a couple years ago, I met her, and the day I met her, she was having a lot of issues with the electromagnetic interference that was floating around in the building we were in. We were at a party, and I brought in one of my Orgone generators and handed it to her, and she immediately felt grounded, stable. She had been planning to leave the party early, but she ended up staying late, and I ended up sending that device home with her to help her out. And down the line, we ended up having an amazing trade, barter of services, where I helped her learn how to create some of these things for herself, and she helped me with a lot of Feldenkrais bodywork sessions. So That's one example. Yep.
That's nice. That's what it's about. So where would you see this being eventually? What would be an ideal world? Would there be one of these in every home? Would they be in parks? Would they be like if you could take it to its furthest extremes, what would the world be like to make it a better place, including this technology?
I really don't think that's for me to say.
Okay.
I think that everybody is going to decide that for themselves and how they want to integrate this new wave of innovation into their world, their corner of the world, how they want to use it to enhance nature and their daily lives. But I'm just one person doing this. There's thousands and thousands and a growing number of people doing this work.
And how can I put it? Each one is creating its own frequency and healing energy in that location, So if there was more people doing this across the world, would there be an overall effect for you?
Yeah, so Slim Sperling said that over time, as more harmonizers are activated around the world, that air pollution will be cleaned up, crime rates will drop, and we'll slowly but surely move into the peaceful world that we're all looking for, that we're all trying to build. Everybody who is growing and reaching into consciousness and spirituality, we all have that sense within us where we want to go and what we want to see. And as more people create technology that can assist others step forward into that dream, I think we'll get there more quickly and more stable.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. And if you've got a message for people out there, because I know that what you're doing, it spreads further than what you're doing. You're an appreciator and you've got, how can I put it, compassion and empathy and love for humanity and creation and nature. So whether somebody's doing something with crystals or tones, or I feel you appreciate the cause and the positivity. But this is your opportunity to speak to the people on my channel and say what you've got to say. So in regards to the world and themselves, and is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I would offer a message of encouragement and encouragement to work, to put in the work and start making your area beautiful. Right now where I'm at, I'm surrounded by a food forest, and I'll just take you on a little walk through here real quick.
Oh yeah,
but this is a permaculture installation, and all these plants are very young, but they are growing, and off in the distance there you can see some banana trees. In a couple years, this is going to be flourishing, abundant. This can be done everywhere. And where the crystals and the technology come into play with this are as a support to the hands-on work that people are doing in their communities to build community gardens, to build community green spaces. When the technology is just used on its own, it can only do so much. It'll help, right, with EMFs. It can clear chemtrails. It can clear the sky. But when it's used to support gardening and the efforts of those who are really connecting with nature on a daily basis, that's where it's going to shine.
Yeah. So it's a relationship. It's symbiosis. It's the relationship of nature. Yeah, and that's where it works best.
Yeah, it works best that way. And what I found with my art and my work personally, working with the bonsai trees, the copper bonsai trees, and integrating that with the Orgone and the Tensor technology, is that there almost seems to be a coming forth of a plant consciousness aspect within the Orgone that I'm creating, that I'm working with. Whereas something like a pyramid might act more like a device, like a machine, I found that starting to emulate nature is actually bringing forth that natural flow of life and consciousness into the work. So yeah, and I'll tie that back to something really cool actually. So before I made my first tree, this I've been making orgone for a while before this, but before I made my first tree back in March of last year, 2023, on the spring equinox, I was actually standing on top of Pilot Mountain in North Carolina. And I know you've spoken about Pilot Mountain before and its significance to the world grid. And I've had thoughts about giant trees for a long time, back and forth in my mind. You know, was it real? Was it fake? What's going on? But there, that day on Pilot Mountain, as I was standing on top and looking out, I felt like I could feel the trunk going up behind me and the branches coming out. I could see laying out over the land of North Carolina the pathways where the roots would have been, and I could see almost see like the shade of the branches and the way that the light would come through. It was magnificent. It was a waking vision kind of situation that was going on. And shortly after that, when I was up in Rhode Island doing this work for my friends at their healing center, that was when the idea to build a bonsai tree, a copper tree, came through.
That's beautiful. So really, you're a tree whisperer too, aren't you? Or a tree seer?
You know, I guess I've got a lot more work to do there. I think just more finding more quiet in my own life, and actually, like, I've been traveling for 3 years, so I know a lot of trees. I like a lot of trees. I go visit special like rare trees in every state I go to. I try to find like what's the cool trees in the area, and that's been great. But I want to get to know like my own trees. I want to have like some friends that I can hang out with and plant some and grow them from seeds. So that's like a big next step for me in my relationship with nature.
Oh man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You're making me smile. I can't stop smiling. Oh mate,
I love listening to your videos, Chad, because everybody that I hear come on is just, we all feel this same desire to experience more of what it is, that mysterious touch of the mind and the will of nature that goes beyond like the feeling of wind on your face or beyond the feeling of the bark. It's that like almost psychic connection that we can have with nature.
That's a beautiful way of putting it, bro. That is a beautiful way of putting it. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? And we can feel it. As subtle as it is in people, and there's many people that deny it, you know, and just put it off as something else. But the more you follow it, the more stronger that gets, isn't it? Until it's speaking to you. So, you know, there's many people out there that are like, okay, there's so many people saying they can talk to trees now. I've told my experience to a degree. Everyone's had their chance and opportunity that's already spoke to tell theirs. What was yours? Obviously, you told us how it happened, but was there something that made it happen, or do you feel it was just something natural, or was there an event or a trauma or something, or do you feel that you've always just been connected to trees? How would you put it in your experience of why and how?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I can't quite recall, because what's strongest in my memory is the actual like message of the tree. But I think that day that I climbed up in that tree, I might have been worked up about something. At that time in my life, I was a lot more ungrounded, unsettled. I hadn't really started to find inner peace. and I was like kind of lost in the world. I was playing a lot of violent video games. I was working for a company I didn't like, and then going to school. Didn't enjoy school, so a lot going on that was like chaotic in my mind. And I had a hard time meditating or finding peace, but I would always find that I could calm down better when I was sitting up in a tree, and particularly this one maple that I really liked. So I was there. I remember I had no shoes on, and I think I'd taken my shirt off as well. I was just leaning up against the tree, giving it a big old hug, one of the branches, and clearing my mind, taking deep breaths. And I started to get almost like visual images in my mind that were different than my own thoughts. You know, everybody has their imagination. It's different. Like they can see things. Like if you think of a place, you can catch a glimpse of the place or the person. But when I started getting images from the tree, it was like much broader scope, larger than anything that my mind had comprehended before. And I started to get a sense of like how the trees are all connected, and even the grass and the fruits and the berries, how they're all connected through the mycelium web. I knew a little bit about it at the time, but I wasn't super aware of like the science behind it. But I got the sense of like, oh, it's plant consciousness is like one big thing in the world. And yeah, one of the coolest things that tree told me that day, and subsequently told me as well, it told me that a lot of trees think humans are cute. Like, you know, some trees don't like us at all, right? Because they're like, oh, he cut down my friend. But I think some trees, and I think a lot of trees, like, think humans are just adorable little creatures, and they like us.
That's interesting, you know, especially the conversation with Julia when she was saying how they like to be cheeky and silly and things like that. Yeah. Very linking, very interesting. As we say, the personalities, it's miraculous.
He's a good tree.
That's Bernie. He's an oak. Sweet and grounded. That's Hillary. Strong, but a little untrustworthy. That's Donald. He's an asshole.
What would you say that one behind you is like? Have you managed to interact with that one much?
I found something interesting about a lot of the trees in Florida, and this one included, is like they're not very talkative. At least to me, I haven't been able to have conversations, right? I haven't been able to like go back and forth with them as much. It almost feels like they are super chill, super relaxed. And this tree definitely has that vibe. He or she is very soothing and calming, and being an oak as well, and having been here, probably one of the oldest trees on the block here, it's got a very sedate pace, like a very sedate personality.
See, that's interesting as well, isn't it? Because maybe it's not always down to the individual. Maybe it's also down to the tree, the location, the type of tree. You know what I mean? As you say, like, you know, I'm not sure. Maybe my trees up here are a bit different to people down in London streets. Maybe I haven't had much with them. So you make an interesting point, and it's all things to take into consideration, isn't it? You know, so.
Yeah, and I like something that you say fairly often on your videos is like, none of us really know about this, and we're not, at least we're not necessarily trying to be exactly scientific and plot it all out on a graph. It's kind of a more open-hearted like discovery of what we're all experiencing, and just being able to talk about it and hear what other people have to say.
You know, it's nice as well as just to say, Oh, I'm not being able to speak to. There's many reasons. There's many factors. Come up by me, you know. Yeah, but you're right, mate. We don't. I think that's the best approach to take sometimes. Just, you know, an open-hearted approach. I feel your eye has dropped. You can tell your ego. The ego is the wrong word, but it's the eye. It's the false eye. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the time we have to command things, and it's about I and me and mine. Those are the three. You know, so
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I do think like ego is not necessarily the right word for it, but I like how you framed it up. And for myself, I feel like with the technology, especially Orgone and Tensor technology, working with that has helped me do serious work and advance spiritually and emotionally in ways that I might not have been able to without it. Well, I would have, but it just would have taken a very long time. And I think that's one of the most significant things about Orgone and Tensor technology that oftentimes gets kind of put on the back burner or overlooked when people are talking about it. A lot of times the effects like clearing chemtrails and helping with EMFs are the main sellers, the main reason people want to get into it. And one of the, those are like the main reasons I got into it in the first place.
Well, this is fascinating. I'm out here on the water, and thanks to Chris and Aran and a bunch of incredible people, we have electroculture all over the farm. The farm is right there, and above the farm, it seems like the chemtrails have been dispersed everywhere around. Otherwise, whoa, has chemtrails, right? So I don't know, it seems to be this way more often than not.
But what I found over time from my own experience and from talking to others who do this kind of work is that there's a much more significant part to all of it, which goes on in the conscious and the subconscious and the emotional world of the people who do this work, of helping us see our shadows, see where we need to elevate ourselves, and acting as like an assist there, like acting as a tool to do that work. Have you ever tried biofield tuning?
On my spiritual journey, probably a lot like a lot of people, I explored a bit of everything. So a big part of that was like tones, frequencies. I've got a singing bowl here that I used a lot. That's my little.
Hey, cool.
Yeah. I feel my journey was to do with finding silence. It all ended up that in that direction. It was almost balancing myself through different. At the end of the day, do you know what worked with you? Because I don't. It's a combination of everything. It's things you've read. It's the tones. It's the meditations. It's the breathing practicing you're doing, and it all accumulates to something in the end, where the thoughts slow down and. And then you get images that aren't yours, as you're saying, from trees and conversations that are more like feelings and telekinesis. So it becomes beautiful and magical, But so I've gone a long way off your question. I've dabbled.
I like that. Yeah, and I would say that sounds about right for most people as well that I've spoken to. I don't think people can point to like one specific thing or moment that helped them. But I will say I've found the biofield tuning and just sound work in general to be really potent, really helpful with kind of like taking those big steps that are hard to take alone.
So in relation to, say, the 7 sounds of the chakra, like and like there was a lot of that. So if anything, because I came from a Buddhist, Hinduism, Eastern understanding, I jumped over there and then came to the West after. A lot of the sounds and tones and frequencies that I was doing and music and were all to do with that. So what would be your take on that type of tonage and frequency?
Well, for myself, I have dabbled a little bit into the Eastern approach, Buddhist approach, yogic approach. I've studied at some yoga temples a little bit, and I've practiced yoga for most of my life. And I have, of course, seen, lots of books and things and videos and discussions on the Eastern approach. However, I have not felt much of a pull in that direction myself. And it's all well and good for those who do. However, on my own journey, I have felt more of a call to the Western ideas, the Western approach to mysteries, and at the end of the day, a little bit more of a Christian mystical type of vibe.
Yeah. Like I'm heavy into my Gnosticism, Christian Gnosticism, and things like that. But I feel like it was a combination of everything. I'm one of these people that takes and dabbles absolutely everything, mate. You know what I mean?
Check on everything, otherwise you don't know what you're missing out on, and additionally, you don't know if you're being lied to.
Exactly. You know, I was just interested on your take in terms of the tones and frequencies and how they relate to
biofield tuning or sound work in general. Right.
In general.
Okay. Yeah. So, in relation to technology, how I think chanting and the use of the human voice and the use of real instruments can be utilized is that of like powering it up. So if somebody has a Orgone pyramid, occasionally you'll see people running a device called a violet ray wand, which is basically zaps the Orgone pyramid and charges it up. However, I think that using a human voice and humming or chanting or singing into whatever it is you're working with is going to have a more potent effect. And at the end of the day, I do think that we as humans are, or as true men and women, we are the real technology. We are the real spiritual beings. All these devices and artworks and things that I've done and that other people have done, they are tools to help us. But at the end of the day, I think that with dedication and with serious like inner spirit, if you have it in you, you're going to be able to clear the sky. You're going to be able to protect yourself from EMFs and charge up your plants, whatever you got to do, simply with your voice, like the word, right? Using the word.
That's it. That's a perfect way to almost summarize everything. You know, it's a tool, it's an aid. You are the key already. You have everything, you know.
Yeah,
the more tools we can have, the better, isn't it? You know, like we've got against us all this technology and all the harmful things. Why not have a few things in our favor? You know, so.
Yeah, definitely, and it's tough. It's easier said than done to chant and change your life and do all this powerful stuff and do all this work. Yeah, we need help. We need help in this day and age. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with looking for other ways to get into that state of inner peace. Although at the end of the day, the only thing that can truly bring us there is ourselves. Along the path there, having tools like Orgone generators, Tensor rings, different styles of crystals and crystal pendants, using tuning forks, singing bowls, I think that will, help bring us to that state where we can start to open up to nature and hear and see what nature has to say to us. I just had a couple more things I wanted to just mention real quickly, in regards to helping people find more information about what I talk about, and then also in how it relates to grid work. So how Tensor and Orgone technology can relate to the world grid, the energy grid of the Tartarian civilization, and the energy grid of the trees, and the natural consciousness grid, is up to kind of the person making it and how they want to work with it. If they want to just use something in their home for personal protection, that's amazing. That'll help them, that'll help their family and their neighbors, and help hopefully clear up the sky. Additionally, a lot of people in the Orgone and Tensor community do a lot of gifting to cell phone towers, where they'll actually take Orgone devices and put them all over their neighborhood, wherever they can find cell phone towers, or like those big green boxes in the suburbs that make that humming sound. Those transformers and things, those are putting off a lot of electromagnetic energy. So a lot of people like to do that. So for myself, I like to work with the natural energy of what was there before, rather than trying to catch up with what man has done in our current civilization. I like to work with the raw energy coming up from the earth. And so I'll go up to mountains or high points, or lakes and rivers, and I will use natural materials so that in my work I won't be causing any pollution. And I'll place devices in areas that are gonna kind of be like a central point to a little region. And then over time, as more and more of those high points in the area, you can call them mounds or mountains, as those are equipped with technology, it starts to form a grid and open up the flow of natural energy again, where it may have been blocked by the infrastructure that's been built up.
That's kind of what I was trying to ask you. What do you see? And that is, now I picture it, and it is beautiful, and I can see the power of that. Wow.
Yeah, and especially with how I've felt called to work with this technology, especially since I climbed up Pilot Mountain and had that experience, is to work with building devices that have the emanation of a giant tree. So it may be a small tree made of metal and crystals. However, the energy coming from it can not replace, but start to revive the energy in the area around there, revive the ecosystem, and bring back the lovely, tender, caring essence of those giant trees that are no longer with us.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful vision. I can picture it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope you get to do more than picture it. I hope you get to experience it. I think you will.
Me too. Yeah. It's kind of what I put out in my last video about the Great Awakening, and I was talking about the different places on the earth, and imagine as a grand one, and what that could bring if we all awoke, and if we all chipped in and did this type of thing.
That brings me to my next point, which was I want to make sure people know how to find out more about this if they're interested. And the number one way that I would encourage people to learn about Orgone, Tensor, or any other kind of crystal-based technology is start asking around with your own circles. Start asking your spiritual friends, and you will be surprised how many people in your area either know about it or even are making these types of things.
Fantastic.
If you can find somebody who knows about these types of things already, you'll get a major head start.
What's the name associated with it, the main name? What is it?
Okay, so for Tensor, I already mentioned the man named Slim Sperling.
Okay.
And I would just recommend looking up Light Life Tools on YouTube. They have a bunch of talks by Slim Sperling. That's a great way to start to get a feel for the technology. And then for Orgone, one of the pioneers of Orgone energy was Wilhelm Reich. And his work dates back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s. He's no longer with us. And since then, there's been a lot of people who've innovated on the work of Wilhelm Reich, one of them being Don Croft, who also has passed away. But if people look up Don Croft, Doncroft, they'll find out about orgonite. And he was kind of the guy who first came up with the resin pyramids and resin orgonite.
Yeah, to be honest with you, now I'm thinking back on my ventures, and I'm sure I tried to make an orgonite box. Yeah, I came across the method. It was like a sheet, and then you could make a box. And I'm pretty sure that, like, what I was reading, he made a human version, one to put himself in.
The Orgone accumulators, that was kind of how Wilhelm Reich was first pioneering Orgone technology. Now, I would caution people about necessarily just be careful when you're working with that Orgone accumulators in our modern day and age, because there's so much electrosmog right now that accumulating some of that could be a risk. Accumulating damaging energy as opposed to just accumulating beneficial energy.
Yeah.
And there was one other just heads up and caution for people when they're starting to look into these technologies and get into it. Do it with moderation. Like I mentioned, there's a significant effect that can occur onto the emotional and inner consciousness of the individual who is doing the creating of the art and of the technology. And take it slow. Give yourself plenty of time to integrate what's going on, see how you feel about it, see if it's actually aligned with what you want to do. And then I would also give people a caution regarding creating very powerful or a lot of devices, because these are affecting the ether, they are affecting the environment and the atmosphere. Take it slow. See how things change in your environment if you're going to get into this, because there has been instances of potentially either causing damaging storms, heavy rainfall, those types of things. Because when you start moving around a lot of energy, it can start to influence the weather, maybe in ways that weren't intended.
Manipulation,
Right. What's the balance between trying to help bring back that natural flow of energy and then almost like having power over it? I don't want to have power over nature or power over anyone. And so that's kind of a moral question that I think hasn't really been talked about as much in Orgone and Tensor communities.
Well, for me, everything you've just explained is down to the self. And if you've got that type of intention and you want to go too far with the energy and do all this, it's not the right type of you're doing it from the eye, aren't you? The full sight type of thing, the desire and want, where everything needs balance. And I feel like before anybody messes with any type of technology, spiritual power, this is why you almost dissolve the self, or you work with the self, you transmute the self. There's so many different words, whatever anyone wants to use, to take that away, that power element, that I element, God element, control element, because it's easy. It's a fine line. It's more like the way I always describe it. It's just like a balance in scales. It's a constant You know, anybody that's got there or thinks they're there is wrong, because you're always going to have something through your way, you know, and it's a case of balancing yourself as you go, like more so than being this single point that is immovable, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, with that balancing as well, trying to find the center as well, not necessarily like balancing to one side and then running all the way over to the other side, but trying to get down to the point where you're just teetering a little bit as opposed to back and forth stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all we can do, isn't it? You know, we know it's a roller coaster and we know external influence is going to influence in some way, but
right.
You know, it's just doing your best with that, isn't it, mate? I think some people, just while we're on this type of subject, you know, a lot of people's worst enemy out there is themselves, their own mind. You know, it's the one that says they're not good enough, and then they hate themselves and all of that. You know, I feel that's a lot of people's biggest thing to get over at the start with. It's that internal dialogue that's negative and quite self-destructive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say to that, you really can do the things that you think are good and the things that you want to do. I had this realization a while ago. I was feeling down. I was feeling like, oh man, what am I doing? But then I picked up a nice rock off the ground and I was like, wait, I figured out how to use the rocks to make the chemtrails go away. And I was like, wait, you know what? I'll be fine. Like, if I could figure that out, I can figure out how to, like, you know, send mail, or, you know, I'm going to be able to make it to the next paycheck or whatever it is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And yeah, and, you know, people don't give themselves enough credit for the hard work that they have done and the things they've been through. It's easy to forget the hard work you've done yourself, and you just got to give yourself a chance to remember that.
That's lovely, mate. So everyone watching, remember that about yourself, and try to give yourself a pat on the back occasionally for the good you do. We're all victim of this, of just punishing ourselves instead of ever saying, you know what, well done. So
yeah,
it's a well done to all of you, and to you, mate. You're fantastic. And how old are you? Do you mind me asking?
I'm 24.
Like you seem so, for your age, you know, you're so wise and mature and graceful. So I feel like you've got a great future with humanity. And it's a pleasure speaking to you, because you're everything I've just said.
Thanks, Chad. Really appreciate it, man. And yeah, you know, I'm young and I'm full of hope and excitement for the future. I know there's a lot of scary stuff going on in the world, and I would be lying if I say it, you know, a lot of it doesn't concern me, or a lot of it does concern me. However, I've worked for many years and traveled for many years to find a way that I can help be part of the solution, and bring us forwards to where we all want to be. So no matter what happens, that's what I'm going to keep doing for myself, for my family, and for everybody who wants to live in accordance with the laws of nature and the laws of God.
That's beautiful. Just one final note, you know, I think the most special thing about this talk, mate, has been you. And you know, like, we sit here and we talk about the power of your crystals and this energy and everything, but you know what? We've already said it. The most powerful element is you, and you know, you shine, you know. And I just have to tell you that, mate, because I don't think we tell it enough as men, and we don't hear it enough either. But you really do, and it's you. So regardless of the technology and all of that, I really feel that you make a difference. Your vibration in general, every person that you know that you're encountering, and just keep being you, bro. Like, those things are aids and tools just to elevate that power, but you yourself are a star, like, shining. So
thank you so much, Chad. Yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah, that's something I definitely, you know, I definitely got to tell myself that more. It's easy to get caught up, like we said, but yeah, I really appreciate that, Chad. And I'm grateful to you as well for just being open to having me on here and having so many great people on. You know, I love seeing people talk about their experiences and share their stories who aren't necessarily like freedom celebrities. You know, there's 1,000 podcasts with the same guests over and over, and they go on each other's shows and this and that. And it's just great to hear from the people of the world and to know like what's going on in other countries and how people are feeling about life and their futures. So, but thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Chad.
I'm sending so much love to you, brother. Really am. Love and light, man.
Much love. Much love. One other thing I do that I didn't really mention to you yet is I'm a fencing instructor.
Okay.
And I do sword fighting.
Yeah.
So if you want to like slip in like a little clip of me like playing with swords, that would be cool too.
Oh, definitely. Have you got anything to say about why you do that and the art of it? Just maybe I could add it on. The art of it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so like martial arts, right? It's an art of the body and the mind and the spirit. And I've always enjoyed fencing, sword fighting. Since I was like 7 years old, my mom had me take a class, and ever since then, I've been practicing. So now I got a business started with me and my brothers called Mullen Fencing Academy, where we make foam swords that are like super safe and pretty reasonably priced as well, with the goal of getting people outside, getting them active, and doing a sport that's fun and safe. You know, it's hard to get into a lot of martial arts. It's hard to get into like a football team or soccer. You know, you got to find one. But with the foam swords and fencing, it's just so much fun. You can go outside at any time of day, and it doesn't matter what age you are. Everybody has a fair shot, and just get into it. So I love it for the physical and spiritual centering that it brings me. And I also love it for the access to like my inner child and bringing that excitement and fun to other adults and children as well. Anybody who wants to try. Yeah. Real Jedi stuff too. Real Jedi. Yeah, when I was homeschooled, after our homeschool classes, we all had like the flip out lightsabers, and we would just go at it, like go crazy, like beating each other's fingernails off and stuff. It was a blast.
Bro, we might need it again. What harm is it to learning, you know. In England, we haven't got guns. We can't even have guns. So if anything kicks off, it'd be nice to know a little bit of, you know, definitely. Brother, love you, man. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much, Chad. Same to you, man. Look forward to the video, brother. Be well.
Thank you so much, bro, man. Love and light, bro. Take care, bro.